Welcome back to all the students in this lecture 2 of plant physiology. Last time in the previous lecture we had understood about what is dormancy and the various causes that leads to dormancy, right? So in this lecture today we are going to understand about the various methods that are employed to break dormancy, right? So these methods of breaking dormancy can be divided into these following types. These are scarification, stratification, alternating temperature, light, pressure, and growth regulators, right? So any one of these method can be employed to break the dormancy, or sometimes even a combination of these 2 or 3 methods can be used together to break the dormancy so that the seeds can germinate, right? Now we will consider each of these method one after the another so that you can understand what each method does to break dormancy. So the first method that we are going to understand is scarification. So scarification is mainly used to break the dormancy of seed coat that is impermeable to water and gases. If you remember, we had just learned that there are certain seed coats that are impermeable to water and gases. So such seed coats can become permeable by this method, which is scarification. So scarification breaks the dormancy caused by impermeable seed coat, and that seed coat is actually impermeable to water and gases. So to break the dormancy of such seed coat, scarification is used. So these are mainly of 2 types. These are mechanical scarification or mechanical method, or chemical method or chemical treatment of scarification. So let us understand that what is mechanical method. Mechanical method is anything that we do physically, right? So this is like one example is shaking the seeds. So either you shake the seeds continuously so that the seed coat will become permeable to water and gases, or by scratching or nicking the seed coat with knife. So it could be either knife, or it could be scratching the seed to any kind of rough surface as shown here in the figure, right? So this is also mechanical method. When you scratch the seed in this way to rough surface, the seed coat it becomes weak, right? And this can then become permeable to water and gases, correct? So this is mechanical method. And then what is chemical method? Chemical method, as the name suggests, it is dipping the seeds into strong acids or organic solvents. So either you can dip the seed into strong acids. These strong acids could be like sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4. Sometimes even weak acids like HCl, right, hydrochloric acid. Or it could also be like organic solvents, for example acetone and alcohol. So either you dip in the seeds into acids or into organic solvents, for example acetone and alcohol. Chemical method is also said when we boil the seeds in water. So that is also chemical method. That is also included in chemical method, and that can also break the dormancy of seed by allowing the hard seed coat to imbibe water, hence becoming permeable. So we often see at our homes also that sometimes we soak the seeds in water, or sometimes we boil the seeds pulses, right? So this is also chemical scarification. So what happens by scarification is that the seed coat becomes soft and weak, So the method by which a seed coat becomes soft and weak is called scarification, right? So scarification, as mentioned, can be of mechanical type or chemical type, where mechanically we physically perform activities that would disturb the seed coat, and chemically we can either dip in acids or organic solvents or water. So then that is called chemical scarification, right? So this is about scarification. Now we move towards our next type of method, next method for breaking dormancy, that is stratification. So stratification breaks the dormancy that is caused by embryo, right? So we had also learned that there are certain seeds in which the embryo itself is responsible for dormancy. So to break that kind of dormancy, stratification is useful. This stratification is also called after ripening. Here the seeds are exposed to well aerated and moist condition and often kept at low temperatures of 0 to 20 degrees Celsius, right? So as shown in the figure, this sometimes we do at our homes also, when we keep the seeds in moist cloth, right, where proper aeration also is available and the cloth is wet also, right? So it gives moist condition, and this is called stratification. So what stratification does is that it brings some chemical changes in the immature embryo. So in the seed, whatever the immature embryo is present, that will undergo some chemical changes because of stratification. So what are these chemical changes? These chemical changes are actually necessary for the seed to germinate. So these chemical changes are concentration of nitrogen and phosphor or phosphorus is shifted to other parts of seed. So in seed there are various parts, right, as we studied before also. It has epicotyle, hypocotyle, radicle, plumule, cotyledons, embryo, endosperm, right? So sometimes it happens that not all part has a proper concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus. These two are very important. These are macronutrients important for the plant to grow. So sometimes these are not available properly, and therefore by stratification the concentration of this nitrogen and phosphorus will shift to other parts, for example like to an immature embryo. So when this will shift to an immature embryo, the embryo will mature and this will lead to its germination. Another is amino acids, organic acids and enzymes are also shifted. So again, amino acids are building blocks, organic acids are also sometimes important in various physiological processes, and enzymes are equally important. So all of these are shifted to the other parts of seeds, which will lead to germination. Similarly, cyanogenic glycosides are decomposed. Now, cyanogenic glycosides are naturally produced plant toxins. These sometimes, if present in larger quantity, may not allow the plant to germinate. So these cyanogenic glycosides are toxins, so it has to be decomposed. So when these are decomposed, then this will lead to germination. And the last is concentration of growth regulators is also changed, right? So sometimes it happens that growth regulators like growth inhibitors are more in amount than growth stimulators, right? So for germination we need growth stimulators like auxin gibberellins, right? So the concentration of growth regulators will change accordingly for germination to occur. So this is stratification, and a very good example of both stratification and scarification that we do are at our homes is preparation of sprouts from whatever pulses we use, right? So this is mung seed. What we do to make it to sprout it, we keep it overnight in water, right? So that will lead to imbibition of water, right? So that process is scarification, where we are allowing to bring some chemical changes in the seeds, correct? So that is scarification, when we keep the seeds overnight in water, and then later on the next day what we do, we discard all the water and then we wrap these seeds into a cloth, and that cloth we keep moist, we keep it wet, so that gives a proper well aerated and moist condition for the seeds to germinate. So after few hours, or maybe 6 to 7 hours, or maybe next day, you can see that the seeds have started germinating, and you can also see that this green part, they just break open. So that green part is what it is, actually the hard seed coat, and that has broken down, and that has led to seed germination, right? So the embryo, they start growing when they are kept in well aerated and moist condition. So that when we wrap that seeds, when we wrap in cloth and we give it moist condition, that is called stratification, and this is a very common example we often do at our homes. So next time when you make sprouts, just remember that what you are doing, you are breaking the dormancy of these seeds, you are carrying out scarification and stratification that leads to germination of these seeds, right? So this is stratification. Now we come to our third method, that is alternating temperature. So this is also useful in breaking dormancy that is caused due to immature embryo, that is embryo is not fully developed, and so to break dormancy of such seeds, we carry out alternating temperature method. So here an example of a plant is taken, that is Poa pratensis. This belongs to family Poaceae, right? What is done, that alternating low and high temperature treatment is provided. So an alternation is carried out between low and high temperature, that is for some time low temperature is provided, and then again for some time high temperature is provided, and like that it can be continued. So this difference between temperature should not be actually more than 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. The difference that should be there between low and high temperature should not be a high difference. Why? Because most of the seeds, they can germinate between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. So this is optimum temperature for a seed to germinate. Most of the seeds, they germinate at this temperature, that is between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. So if you provide too low temperature, then also the seeds will not germinate and the process will become slow, because when temperature is low, it will lead to freezing, and that will lead to the reduction in physiological activities, right? So too low a temperature is also not good, and when the temperature is too high, that is also not good, because that will again lead to a decrease in seed germination, right? So both of these are not correct. If you provide too low temperature, then also the seed will not germinate, and if you provide too high a temperature, then also the seed will not germinate. So it should be a optimum temperature, and because of this, the difference should not be more than 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, because a vast difference will lead to decrease in germination. So temperature is known to cause changes in moisture condition, hormones production and enzyme activity. So alternating temperature makes changes in the seed in terms of moisture, in terms of hormones production like growth regulators, and in terms of enzyme activity. So all these changes will lead to the seed to germinate. Another example is of Rumex seeds. In Rumex seeds, an alternating temperature difference of 15 and 25 degrees Celsius has been useful for seed germination, right? So alternating temperature of low and high is important. This can cause seed germination, but when you take too low temperature and too high temperature, the seeds will not germinate, as the rule applies that anything of extreme is not good, right? So this is about alternating temperature. Now we move towards next method of breaking dormancy, that is light. Okay, so to understand how light affects, first of all, let us know that what are photoblastic seeds. I think you already know, I had mentioned it before also. Photoblastic seeds are called light sensitive seeds. These seeds are sensitive to light. So these are photoblastic seeds. So based upon the sensitivity of the seeds to light, that is how much a seed is sensitive to light, photoblastic seeds can be of three types. These are positively photoblastic seeds, negatively photoblastic seeds and non-photoblastic seeds, right? So as the name suggests, positively photoblastic seeds means they require an exposure of light for the seeds to germinate. So such kind of seeds require light compulsorily to germinate. So light is important for these kind of seed. An example of such plant is such plant seeds is Lactuca sativa, which is lettuce, right? Then negatively photoblastic seeds, as the name suggests, are those seeds which require complete darkness. So if such seeds are given light, it will not germinate. So darkness is compulsion is important for these seeds. They will not germinate in light. So these are negatively photoblastic seeds. Example of such seeds are onion seeds, even amaranthus seeds. These are negatively photoblastic seeds. They require darkness to germinate, right? And then non-photoblastic seeds are those that are irrespective of light or dark. So they can grow even in light and can germinate even in dark. So light is not an important factor for them. So most of the species are non-photoblastic seeds, are non-photoblastic types, but some are negatively photoblastic and some are positively photoblastic, but most of the plant seeds are non-photoblastic, right? So this is about photoblastic seeds. Now we understand the mechanism. For that, we take the example of positively photoblastic seeds, and the example is Lactuca sativa, right? So when we say that a plant is photoblastic, that means that phytochrome pigments that are present in plants are involved in this process, right? So phytochrome is a photoreversible pigment that is present in plants. So all plants have this pigment which is called phytochrome. So this pigment phytochrome is present in two forms, right? One is PR, the red absorbing form. It is called PR, that is phytochrome R, that is pigment that absorbs red light, right? And the other is PFR, that is the pigment that absorb far red light. right? So these are the two forms of pigment. This is actually blue in color. This pigment is blue in color, but it absorbs red light. And this pigment is green in color, but it absorbs far red light, right? So red light is of, okay, let us understand that what PR does. PR when absorbs red light, okay, red light is of 660 nanometer, PR gets converted to PFR. When this pigment, which is PR, absorbs red light, it gets converted to PFR. And similarly, when this pigment, which is PFR, absorbs far red light, which is of 730 nanometer, PFR gets converted to PR. Both of these pigments are interconvertible, right? So as the PR absorbs red light, it gets converted to PFR, and as the PFR absorbs far red light, it gets converted to PR, right? So this red light actually stimulates germination. How? By converting PR to PFR. So what do we understand from this is that red light stimulates germination, and for germination to happen, this pigment is important, that is phytochrome FR, that is PFR, right? So for germination to happen, red light is important and PFR is important. So when the phytochrome pigment will be in PFR form, germination will happen, and that is caused by absorption of red light by the PR pigment. Correct? Now, for germination to inhibit, far red light will play the role. So far red light will inhibit germination. So for germination to inhibit, far red light plays the role and the pigment PR plays the role, right? This pigment, when the plant phytochrome pigment will be in the PR form, germination will not occur. So this will inhibit germination, and the responsible light is far red light, right? So please do not mix up these two things. This is pigment PR. This is responsible for conversion of PR to PFR by absorbing red light. So red light actually stimulates the process of germination, and far red light inhibits the process of germination. So this means that PFR when converted to PR will inhibit germination. So PR will inhibit germination, and PR when converted to PFR will stimulate germination. So let us understand the difference, that what is important for inhibition of germination is PR and the far red light. So when the pigment will be in PR form, germination will not occur, and this is caused by far red light, by absorption of far red light. So this is inhibitory, right? This is not needed for germination, that is, this will inhibit germination. And what will stimulate germination is the pigment PFR and the light, which is red light. So PR will absorb red light. Red light will stimulate germination because it will get converted to PFR. PFR is important for seed germination. So these two are stimulatory. PFR is stimulatory and red light is stimulatory, right? So this will lead to germination. I hope that this difference is clear to you, but still if you have any doubt, you can just ask me, right? So this is the mechanism of the phytochrome pigment that is involved in seed germination, or that is involved in dormancy. right? So now we move towards next method, which is pressure. Pressure induces permeability of seed coat to water, right? So seed coat that is impermeable to water can be made permeable by breaking its dormancy with the method of pressure, right? So examples of plants that can whose dormancy, seed dormancy can be broken are Melilotus alba, which is sweet clover, and alpha alpha, which is Medicago sativa. So both of these plants are plants belonging to family Fabaceae, right? And both of these are very much medicinally important plant. Medicago sativa, also called alpha alpha, is used in various diseases like asthma, like kidney problems, like to increase the urine flow, right? So this is a very important medicinal plant. Similarly, sweet clover is also medicinally important. Mainly it is used for blood circulation in varicose veins, right? So these two are medicinally important plant. So if we increase the pressure, the germination process will increase, will get induced, right? So dormancy will be broken by increase in pressure. Usually it has been noticed that applying a pressure of 2000 atmospheric pressure at 18 degrees Celsius temperature for 5 to 20 minutes can induce the process of germination. So the main point to understand here is that more hard the seed coat would be, more pressure would be required to induce seed germination. So harder the seed coat, more pressure required. So this method is often used to increase the permeability of seed coat to water, right? So this is it about pressure. Now we understand the last method, which is growth regulator, right? Growth regulators, or also known as plant growth regulators, PGRs, we all know that there are some 4 to 5 PGRs. These are auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, and ethylene. So these three, auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, are known as germination stimulators, growth stimulators, and these two are known as growth inhibitors, right? And what PGRs do? They influence the germination of plants, and often they are very much active even at very low concentration. So even if we use a very low concentration of these growth regulators, they are active and they can cause the germination of seeds, right? So these are the plant growth regulators that you know, right? So it has been observed that kinetin and gibberellin can induce the process of germination. So gibberellins, we know, these are known to increase the length of the plant, and kinetin is a kind of cytokinin, which is cytokinin we know can cause cell division, right? So kinetin and gibberellin, when used in small amounts, can induce the process of germination. And some other growth regulators that can be used are KNO3. This is potassium nitrate, right? How can it cause germination? Because it contains two main important micronutrients. As the name itself suggests, you can see from the formula, K is potassium and NO3 is nitrate, that is, it is a source of nitrogen. So the two important macronutrients that the plant require are present in this. This is potassium and nitrogen. So it contains the macronutrients. So when this KNO3 is applied, macronutrients will be available to the seed, and that will lead to seed germination. The second important growth regulator is thiourea. Thiourea, again, it consists of nitrogen and sulfur, right? So nitrogen and sulfur both are macronutrients which are important for the plant to grow. So seed is a part of plant, and seed to grow also requires macronutrients also. So what thiourea does, it stimulates photosynthesis and nitrogen metabolism. So thiourea can increase the rate of photosynthesis, and it can increase the nitrogen metabolism. This will lead to breaking of dormancy, and it will lead to seed germination. So both of this, KNO3, that is potassium nitrate, and thiourea are also used as fertilizers in cropping areas in fields by the farmers, right? So these are already commercially available as fertilizers, and since these are fertilizers, you can understand that they provide nutrients, and you can see from its content only that it has macronutrients, and macronutrients are very much important for any plant to grow. So this will lead to seed germination. And another important growth regulator that has been studied to induce germination is ethylene. Now you might think that ethylene is actually growth inhibitor, but ethylene is not going to affect directly, it is not involved directly in the process of germination. But what it will do, that ethylene has been known to interact with certain other compounds like gibberellin. And what is gibberellin? Gibberellin is a growth stimulator, right? So ethylene has been known to interact with such compounds that stimulate the growth process. So this is some kind of chemical process by which ethylene will interact with compounds that can stimulate the process of growth, and when this will happen, these compounds, they will become active, and this stimulatory compound will lead to seed germination, right? So it is indirect involvement of ethylene where it interacts with growth stimulators, and this leads to seed germination, breaking the dormancy. So growth regulators can be used when dormancy is due to maybe growth inhibitors, right? So like this, dormancy of seeds can be broken. So these are the methods that you have to study for methods of breaking dormancy, right? So that is it for today. So with this we come to the end of our lecture. If you have any doubt, you can just also talk to me, right? And last, we just take the advantages of seed dormancy. So as shown in the figure, this is temperate plant seeds, right? If you don't know what are temperate plants, temperate climate is an area which is pleasant, that is, it does not have very much hot weather and it does not have very much cold weather. So the area is very pleasant. So when such area that does not have much hot or much cold weather, when in some extreme conditions, when these plants they pass through very cold conditions, then to overcome that extreme cold, the plants of this area will undergo dormancy. So it is useful for plant to undergo such kinds of dormancy, such kind of unfavorable climate. For temperate plants, it would be a very cold or a very hot climate. To overcome that, the plant will undergo the period of dormancy. The seed will undergo dormancy. Similarly, in tropical climates also the same thing happens. Tropical climate, for your information, are climates that are very humid, though the temperatures are not very high, but the climate there is very humid, and it has year round rainfall. So an example of such area is Kerala, right? So plants belonging to tropical climate, also the seeds they undergo, they sometimes become very tough and undergo the process of survival by dormancy. Sometimes environment becomes very unfavorable, and to overcome that environment, again the tropical plants they undergo dormancy. An example of temperate climate is, for example, Pune year round the temperature there is never very hot and never very low, so the environment there is very pleasant. Okay, then next advantage would be, um, most of the pulses that we use at our home, we never notice, but all of these are seeds and all of these are dormant, right? Imagine if all of these seeds, as soon as they are harvested, they germinate. How are we going to eat it, right? So this dormancy is important for all the mankind also, because we consume them as food. So only if they remain dormant we consume it, right? So if they start germinating right after harvesting, all of this will be useless to humans. We will not be able to eat the pulses, right, these seeds. So this is also an advantage of seed dormancy. And seed dormancy is also advantageous to plant to overcome unfavorable conditions. These unfavorable conditions could be light conditions. Sometimes light conditions are not favorable. Sometimes air is not favorable. Sometimes temperature is not favorable. Some plants require low temperature, some require high temperatures. Then sometimes water conditions are not good. Sometimes soil has certain pH which is not favorable. So that way, to overcome the unfavorable conditions also, the seed undergoes dormancy, which is advantageous to seed itself. So this is about seed of dormancy, and with this we come to the end of the lecture. So if you have any doubt, you can just talk to me. I'll be back with the continuation of this topic. Till then, I hope you all will learn this topic, right? Thank you.